Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's your boy Rico and I'm back with another video. Today we're gonna talk about how to make money selling used shoes to make you thousands of dollars in profit a month. So hang tight with me, watch to the end. You know how we do it. Let's jump right into it. Alright, so here's the whole idea. We buying used shoes, or basically what we call beaters. We restoring them, which upgrades the condition, and then we sell them for a profit. That sounds pretty easy, right? But we're gonna break it down. So first, what we're gonna talk about, like we always do, is startup costs. Things that you need in the beginning. All right, I'm gonna start with cleaning and fixing supplies, and for that you need about, I would say, $100 to $200. All right, so you need things like paint, you need things like cotton swabs, you also need things like acetone to strip off an old paint job. And that's not all. There's actually a lot of stuff that you're gonna need, which is why it's $100 worth of that stuff, and I'll list them individually in the description of this video, and I'm gonna also make a whole video dedicated to that. The second expense, and the most important expense, is your inventory, your shoes, right? And to start off, all you really need is the price of whatever it takes for you to get your first pair. All right, so that could be anywhere between $25 to $100. Most of the time we're dealing with shoes that are not in desirable condition, so that's why you'll be able to get them as low as $25 sometimes. And so in that case, you really don't need a fortune to start with. Now keep in mind, if you want to sell them on eBay, there's seller fees. Keep in mind your shipping fees, because those do add up. So as far as expenses, that's all you're looking at, bro. All right, so now that we got the costs out the way, let's dive a little deeper into how this business model actually works. So the whole idea, just like everything else, is buying used sneakers low and then selling them high, right? However, what makes this business model so much sweeter is like I said in the last segment, you can find shoes for the low and restore them and bring them back up to a decent condition. So I told you in our last videos, right? I told you do not mess with nothing up under an 8 out of 10 as far as condition. Well, in this case, sometimes we're looking for shoes in worse condition than even that. Now I know what you're thinking, like, bro, okay, where do I get these shoes? How do I find these shoes? I'm gonna tell you my places to get good restorable shoes at, all right? And so my number one choice is gonna be eBay. eBay is where the beaters are priced the most reasonable, all right? All you gotta do is go to eBay and search Jordan beaters, or just beaters, period. Another place you can find some shoes to bring the condition up a little more on is flea markets. And this is honestly my second favorite way of finding them. And like I said in the last videos, they don't really know how to price sneakers in there, and so that helps you when you're trying to find something above 8 out of 10. So go to flea markets and look, and I promise you, you will find some good shoes in there. Another way that I find beaters is I check Facebook Marketplace. The only downside is that most of the people in there are still trying to get way more than the shoe is worth, even though they're beaters, okay? So you might come across a guy who has some Space Jams that are 2 out of 10 condition, but because they're Space Jams, he still think they're worth at least $150. So you got to be careful for those, and those can get frustrating, but just navigate through those. And so yeah, the business model is pretty simple. So now let's move on to a couple things to know and a couple pro tips I got for you. All right, so the very first thing that you need to know is that you need to be patient. And the reason I say that is because you really need to understand that a good restore actually does take some time. A lot of people, including myself, when I first went in, I was under the impression that, you know, I can grab some shoes, just, you know, paint them up real quick and boom, they're out the door. But no, you want to do quality work, and it is a process. Now, it is a one-man job, so don't think you need a huge team for this. However, if you can maybe get you and somebody else on the same page and y'all do this together, it can make it that much better. There's no burnout. And also, that leads me right into this. I know we're looking for shoes in bad condition. Make sure you know what you can and can't fix, and let me explain. There's too many times that I got a pair of shoes that were way over my skill level at the time as far as repair, and so that made me have to put more time into it, or I just completely messed the shoes up to the point of no return. And honestly, I'm mainly talking about shoes that need to be glued. In the beginning, I strongly recommend you stick to light paint jobs, all right? Or maybe simple cleaning jobs, you know, shoes that just need to be hit with a little scrub here, scrub there, and they're back to normal. And you need to stick with those until you're more comfortable and can do tougher repairs. Now, there's several learning resources on pretty much any type of repair that you want to learn how to do. So like I mentioned with the shoes that need to be glued, right? If you wanted to learn how to glue, then you need to know which glues hold the best, right? Which fabrics can hold with which glue, which ones hold best with which glue. You see what I'm saying? You need to know that if you're gonna start gluing soles and stuff like that. So that's why I say you really need to, you know, watch and learn before you dive into that. Also, try to find your sweet spot when it comes to condition, right? The more beat they are, the more time it's gonna take you to bring them up to par. The less beat they are, the less time it takes, the easier it can be for you to make the simple repair or the simple cleanup job and then move on to the next shoe. Always be clear and transparent about the fact that the shoes are refurbished when it comes time for you to sell. And it doesn't matter if you get them back to dead stock quality, okay? Just be transparent. Trust me, it's better for you in the long run. Okay, and another pro tip that I'm gonna share with you, and it's also gonna be in the form of an answer of a question that I get often. And that question is, when it comes to painting, is it better to use an airbrush or is it better to use a paintbrush? All right. For me personally, I say airbrush. And the reason I say that is because I don't really have experience with a paintbrush. However, if you have experience with a paintbrush, it's going to be better for you to use a paintbrush because it's less time consuming than an airbrush. When you use an airbrush, you have to paint, you have to use tape and mask off different parts of the shoe so that you don't spray, you know, so you can focus in on the parts of it that you want to spray, that you want to paint, right? But with an airbrush, if you don't need to do that, you're precise, you can just, you know, make your repair. The reason why people who don't have experience with a paintbrush should use an airbrush is because if you don't have experience with a paintbrush, your strokes is gonna look bad. You're not gonna get the same quality that you're gonna get with an airbrush. So that's the answer to the question. If you have experience with a paintbrush, use a paintbrush. If not, use an airbrush. I promise you, the time it takes to mask and everything like that will be worth it as far as quality. All right, now let's talk about some of the challenges. One of the biggest challenges that I see people have as far as when they're starting to do a resale business is honestly the space, okay? This gets really messy and really loud, especially if you're using like a air compressor connected to your airbrush, which you're gonna need. That's pretty loud. As far as messy, we're dealing with paint and chemicals, so it's gonna get messy. So I suggest you take some clothes, number one, that you don't care about, maybe an old table. See if you can go find a real cheap one at the flea market, but something you don't mind getting dirty, because trust me, it's gonna get painted on. As I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest challenges is glue jobs, okay? Glue jobs on sneakers is still one to this day that I'm, you know, having trouble with. So please do your research, watch as many hours of video as you can if you're serious about this, because I'll tell you this, if you can glue, you become basically that much more valuable. So something else I struggle with at the beginning as well, and that's knowing how to price my refurbished shoes. All right, for me personally, I always kept them in the $100 to $150 range, and that's even if I was to get them in mint condition. So the idea is that they are refurbished, and so I'm not gonna go up to 200 or 300, you know. The final and biggest challenge of them all is time. As I mentioned before, you definitely wanna find a sweet spot. Don't get me wrong, if the flip is worth it, then yeah, you can take on a shoe that's gonna take you a while. But for the most part, time invested in a shoe can really be a challenge. Think of it like this. Let's say it takes you 4 hours to take a shoe that you got for $50, take it up to where you can get $75 to $100. Those 4 hours really wasn't worth the profit that you made, okay? Because it took you 4 hours, and you can easily put hours into restoring shoes, especially if you're really into it. So make sure you keep your time in mind and make sure not to invest too much time in any one shoe unless it's a personal project or it's, you know, the flip is worth it. All right, so that's gonna do it for today. I really appreciate y'all rocking out with me. I just wanted to talk about how to make money selling used shoes and how to restore them and bring them back up to snuff. So let me know in the comments what y'all think. This week I'm coming with more and more heat, so I appreciate y'all's continued support. Like always, man, if you like my content, please don't hesitate to like, comment, and subscribe. And Also, check out one of these other videos about sneaker reselling that they got up on the screen. You'll love it, you'll like it. So let's attack this week. Let's be productive. Love everybody out there. Let's get it.